When we first joined the club, women weren't allowed to play squash. And Mike joined, what, 1979?
Right, and
ish.
2 generations.
Yeah.
So you met?
Yeah.
We met here.
Met at the club. Well, mainly the pub, but of course the squash and I used to do a fair bit of curling, but generally just the squash was the main focus for me. I played volleyball up until 1983, and after winning the team I played on, after winning our last Canadian Open Championship, I said to the boys, I'm gone, you'll never see me again, I'm going to play squash, and that's exactly what happened.
Squash bug.
I got the squash bug. Well, Laura gave me the squash bug.
Right. So is it a squash thing or a Laura?
It was a Laura thing.
Right.
To start with.
To start with.
But he's actually being a little bit modest. He was also a really good curler, so early on he played in the Super League. So he curled. He's played badminton. Well, we both played badminton, tennis, curling. Well, I didn't curl. Squash. We used the swimming pool and skating when the kids were young. And we've used pretty well all the facilities in the club throughout our lifetimes.
I would say my earliest memory was coming back from a curling bonspiel in a little town called Granham to rush back to play squash with her at 9 o'clock on I think a Wednesday or Thursday night. I just made it in time.
Yeah, mine probably would have been getting kicked out of the ladies' locker room by Pearl because I wasn't supposed to be in there.
Pearl was the gatekeeper here for many, many years, and she was very good at her job. You better show your membership card coming through that door, I can tell you that. Very much in touch, you know, the Shannons, the Saftons, the Steiners, all squash players, and of course, you know, Danny plays many more sports, but that was the main group, the focus group of the squash group. Yeah, I remember the first out-of-town tournament. Talk about Steiner because he's a 3-time Canadian Open champ, but you know, he was just great to be around. Really helped my squash. He gave me the nickname Letourneau. It's Letourneau. I played him first round of a big tournament. Oh, Letourneau.
When I think about that, I think of Jim Finney Sr., who you know, he's gone now, but he was just this greatest guy. We used to call him Switch on the squash courts because he played with both hands. He alternated. He always had a forehand, and he had so much integrity, and he had such a strong respect and love for the club, no matter what. And he always had such great perspective. He was in the Merchant Marines. He signed up when he was 16 years old in World War II, and he would tell all those stories, and he would tell them to us. He would tell them to David. You know, so he talked to everybody in the club, and he was just a really, really great guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, you know, Bill Fisher on the squash scene was a role model for me. He was always willing to play anybody at any time, especially with juniors. So he loved hitting with all the juniors. And of course, Mel Shannon Sr., who's the ex-president of this club, is a fantastic role model for me personally. What a great guy.
Well, we could start with the old ballroom and West Room. Mel Shannon actually married us in the West Room, and so we celebrated our wedding there. We used to have amazing parties at the club, like bands and tons of people, and they would go on all night, and so lots of memories in the ballroom from all of those parties. And even we celebrated my dad's life in the ballroom. So those facilities hold something for us. Mike has really fond memories of the old billiard room that we used to have off of the pub.
6 by 12 tables.
Yeah, he was definitely a shark.
No, it wasn't a shark. It was an amazing facility for snooker, and you see these old guys in there all the time playing and having fun and enjoying themselves. Yeah, now I'm one of them.
And of course the squash courts in all of their iterations from the beginning when they were the narrow, we used to have North American courts, through the international courts, and then we expanded to get 7 courts, and and now of course we've got that doubles court. So yeah, squash court area is sort of home for us.
Yeah, yeah. Dave and Danielle were lucky to have Arthur and and Glenn. They just did a lot of great things for them, and our kids, as a result, traveled the world playing squash. I mean, I can't think of anywhere they haven't played squash.
See, that's where it got really hard, because there's so many best things that happened to us at the club. Obviously, we met each other there, so I guess that has to be positive, or it should be positive. and we got married here.
Yeah.
We got introduced to squash, which completely transformed our lives in every way, with our kids learning to play and growing up and going to university, playing at the Ivy League schools, and watching Danielle play and win that 2018 national championship was huge. Yeah, that was a really special moment, especially because my dad was still here, and he was here to see her do that. So
yeah, that was very, very unique.
There have been a lot of amazing moments. So yeah. Yeah.
Danielle, husband through the sport.
Yes.
Their entire lives have been shaped by the club, by squash. They continue to be shaped by it. And they both have sworn that both of their children will be playing squash and coming back here as much as they can. They really miss the community of the club.
Anytime you predict what your children are going to do, good luck with that one. When I first was starting to play squash, and I didn't know that Arthur Hoff, the professional, had only been at the club for like a week or a couple of weeks, and there was a big tournament here at the club. So I went to Arthur and I said, hey, look, I'm new to the sport. Who do I watch? Who do I watch play squash? And Arthur takes me over to the draw and he points to his name and he goes, Richard Ferguson. You gotta watch Richard Ferguson. So I find out when Richard Ferguson's playing, I go down to the courts and I watch a match. He got demolished 27-0 in about 10 minutes. I said, gee, I wonder if the pro knows these guys. It was quite funny. It was Dale Steiner. And then Steiner went out and did court drills for an hour after that. That was, I thought.
You always enjoyed that story.
Well, it's true.
Dale did the 27
Yeah.
He triple bagged
Yeah, he just murdered them and then decided to do court sprints because he didn't even get a workout. And Ferguson was a great player, but Steiner was a Canadian champ.
It's served different purposes over the years, but I would say it really ultimately hasn't changed. I mean, this is home. You know, this is where we come, and we know that we're going to run into friends and acquaintances, and we know staff members who've been here for decades. We know, and staff, people that you have really strong relationships with, and members that you know their grandparents, their parents, them, their kids, and you're always going to run into somebody that and it's a really good feeling, and it really is very much like coming home when you come here.
It really is.
Yeah.
This was an incredibly safe place for our kids to grow up and choose what they want to do. And were kind of fortunate. They both went to squash. Dave tried a little tennis. He tried a little hockey.
He played badminton.
He played badminton. Yeah, I think he won the U13 club champs in badminton. And Danielle, they had options to try everything, and they both gravitated to squash.
And even when you haven't been here for a long time, or even people who move away and then they come back, like our kids haven't lived here for a little while now, but they come back and it's just, for them too, it's like coming home. They know everybody, and they just kind of walk right in, and it's like they never left. Okay, so I did have to write this down. And this is, we did talk about this. This is not just me. This is not just me. Membership at the Glencoe means being part of a very special community where you can form lifelong relationships with multi-generations of friends, family, and staff, and where you can compete against each other, cheer each other's on, raise your children in a village environment, share each other's deepest losses. It's a place that nourishes the soul. That's what I would say to the future.
I didn't write that,
You're in there.
but I mean,
You influenced it.